What's up everybody, Jay here and welcome back to the Planted Tank, and today I'm just going to be running over this tank real fast. I just put some DIY lights on there and I figured I'd make a video about it because they're pretty simple. Not the cheapest DIY setup, but for this tank and its awkward size, it's not exactly easy to find a good strip light for it. Especially one that's supposed to fit underneath of the lids that come with this tank. But this is a 40-gallon Waterbox Aquarium's Eden 40. Like I said, it does come with two glass lids that are tinted black, but the amount of space that you get between where the light is supposed to rest and where the tank lid rests, I believe that the light overall has to be less than 3/4 of an inch, which is pretty slim, and it's really hard to find a light like that that is completely waterproof and can be underneath of the lids. I love this tank, but the lighting options for it are very limited. So I decided to go lidless and put these bad boys on here. These are just your typical, that's really bright. These are just your typical house LED bulbs with the white portion of it cut off. Should be able to see, there you go. There's 18 little diodes in each one, and it is 5,000 Kelvin, and they are 1,600 lumens each, and I believe that's not including with the little white part cut off. So they're probably a good bit brighter than that now. The camera's probably not going to show it very well, but the tank is lit up pretty darn good if you ask me. And it actually allows me to put some floating plants up there too. I have some duckweed and some Salvinia minima up there. But as for the lights, I just got these little pieces. This piece, and the cable are all, you buy this together at Ace Hardware or Home Depot. They're a lot more expensive at Ace Hardware. They're $20 compared to like $4 or $5 at Home Depot. But my girlfriend had the stove on while we were gone, so we were kind of paranoid about that. So I just kind of stopped by Ace Hardware on the way back. Overall, I mean, I paid a little extra for everything, but it ended up working out really well. But the main thing I wanted to show you guys was the mount for these. So this portion here, for me, I've always loved these dome style lights for planted tanks. They work really well, especially when you have the proper bulb in there. And so I found these at PetSmart, and they come in a box. Here's the box. This is what the box looks like. It actually has these 3M double-sided tape sticky pads that they come with, and hopefully I can get a okay shot for you back here. I don't know if I can or not, but probably not going to be able to see that very well. But as you can see, they kind of just stick onto the back of the tank, and they work really well. They're very sturdy. I wouldn't put anything heavier than these on there. These are very light, but they're pretty sturdy. I wouldn't use them to hang a typical heavy strip light or anything like that. But I do plan on wiring in some inline dimmers on these. You can pick those up at Amazon for like $10 a piece, so another $20. So after I put the dimmers in, it'll be like $120 overall. But in my opinion, they're just better than every strip light on the market right now. All of them seem to have RGBs, and if you don't know already, white LEDs, in order to make the color white, you have to have the full spectrum of light within those LED diodes. So you don't need RGB lights in order to have a thriving planted tank. This one I just set up last weekend. I am using some compost. You know, I always do things my own way. I still got my filter in there. I am running some air in there. And also I wanted to show you guys that too. So I didn't feel like spending money on, if you haven't noticed, I'm on like a huge money saving kick in the hobby right now. But I didn't feel like spending money on air stones. So basically I took my airline tubing. So I was looking up a whole bunch of different ways of making a DIY air stone, and I didn't like any of them. So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, what can I do to make my own, you know, little air stone? And it's not the greatest. It doesn't work the best. It's got, you know, like medium-sized bubbles, but it's better than having those big ones that come up, and when they pop, they're really loud. And this is my master bedroom, so I didn't want it to be, you know, too loud when I'm trying to sleep. It kind of annoys me a little bit when I hear humongous bubbles popping all freaking night. But so I basically, I plugged the end of my airline hose with hot glue. I don't know if you, there you go. And then I took a little needle with one of those little balls on the end of it from a sewing kit, and I just started poking a whole bunch of holes right through the whole line, and that's my homemade air stone. So it actually works really well. Pretty happy with it. That's the same thing I did in my little 15 gallon. And like I said, this is a dirted tank. I got about 2 inches of sand on top of my dirt, and this sand is all-purpose quickcrete sand. I wouldn't recommend it if you guys don't want to rinse it, but it has a really nice natural look to it. It's got all kinds of, you know, different size little tiny little pebbles in there, and it looks really natural, so that's why I went with this stuff. But if you're gonna use this stuff, it's cheap. It's only like $5 a bag, but the worst part is that it takes hours to rinse this stuff. I mean, it seriously takes a long time. I mean, I think it took me about 2 hours to rinse a half of a 5-gallon bucket worth of this stuff, and I'm just doing that in the shower. Obviously I'm in this tiny little apartment, so I don't have a nice garden hose to go out back with, which sucks, but eventually I'm gonna end up buying a house, and that's just gonna be epic. And so yeah, plant list, I have some Amazon sword compacta here and over here. I have 3 flame swords in the back middle there, and then I also have some regular Amazon swords here and here, and those should get absolutely massive in this tank. These Amazon sword compactas, they won't get any bigger than this. Those are basically fully grown. You can make them more bushy by trimming those outer leaves off, and it'll force the plant to put new leaves up through the middle. But I also have 2 more of those Amazon sword compactas, because sometimes they split, so you'll end up with like baby plants, and then sometimes they'll send off runners that you can just clip baby plants off of, which is really cool when they do that. But when they do that, it kind of makes the plant use all of its energy to make those baby plants. So I usually just clip those off, and then it sends off these little guys. I mean, these are not runners. They literally just kind of split off from the main crown there, which is really cool. And these Amazon flame swords do the same thing. I have some Crypt Wenty bronze in there. It's not exactly bronze. It's more of like Crypt Wenty brown. But got a little bit of Dwarf Sagittaria up here. I always have this same issue with Dwarf Sagittaria, where it grows really, really good for a long time, and then out of nowhere it just all starts to melt. And what's really weird about it is when it melts, let's say this leaf here touches that crypt leaf, it'll make that crypt leaf melt too. So it's almost like a plant disease or something. And it'll do the same thing to my Amazon swords. So let's say one of these leaves melt, it dies off and then it floats around over here. If it touches any of these leaves, then those leaves start to melt also. I have not been able to find out what in the world is causing this to happen. This has been happening to me for years now, for literally going on about 8 years straight that I've had dwarf Sagittaria. It always does that to me. But I also have a little bit of water Sprite back there and back there also. And a lot of people were suggesting to put Ember Tetras in my 15-gallon, which I ended up putting a betta fish in. Hopefully I can get some shrimp here soon and he doesn't just like immediately devour them. But they should have plenty of places to hide in that tank. But the reason why I didn't get Ember Tetras is because I have about 25 of them in here already. So yeah, definitely didn't feel like going with Ember Tetras again. And like I said earlier, the floating plant up here is Salvinia minima, and mixed in there with a little bit of duckweed. And then my filter is a Eheim, I forget what it's called. It's a hot mess down here. Don't make fun of me. It is a Eheim 2215. Classic filter. And in order to cut down on the flow a little bit, I put the filter inlet on the output so it kind of disperses that flow a little better. And as for the intake, this is a Eheim filter intake. It's got a filter sponge in there. It comes with 2 sections like that, but it just looked a little too much in this tank. And then I also have one of these new Fluval heaters that actually has a blue light that stays on. It like actually lets you know that the heater's still working. With most heaters, you just get one light that pops on when it starts heating, and then when it pops off, you know, you don't even know if it's working anymore or not until you see it start heating again. So it's kind of nice heater. And then once the water level drains below this top portion of the heater, it automatically shuts off. I still unplug it every time I do a water change, which I haven't done any water changes on this tank yet, but I probably will eventually. I know there's like a huge water change, no water change thing going around in the hobby right now, but for me personally, I have really hard water, so if I just keep topping this up, it's just going to constantly be adding minerals to the water, and my water is just going to get, you know, the pH is just going to rise and rise and rise if I don't do water changes. I could top it off with RO water and it would just keep that same mineral content until the Amazon swords kind of start using it up, because Amazon swords are actually really good at absorbing like calcium and stuff like that through hard water in their leaves. But yeah, loving these lights so far. I think it's going to be awesome once I get those inline dimmers in, because the lights are very bright. But that's why I got the floating plants in there to help cut back on that a little bit. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this tank so far. This tank was sponsored to me by Waterbox Aquariums. They've been a huge help to this channel, you know, pretty much since the beginning. So huge shout out to them. The stand came with it also. Really loving this tank so far. It's 30 inches. I think it's like 31.25 inches by I think 16 or 18 inches deep by 21 or 22 inches tall, something like that. Yeah, it's got really good dimensions. It's basically like a 29 gallon, just deeper and taller. And you guys know I loved my 29 gallon. I wish I still had it, but I just simply don't have room for it. I mean, this is the only corner. Oh crap, my dog just scared me. This is the only corner I have in the bedroom where I can actually fit a decent sized tank. And there is nowhere else in this little apartment to have any other aquariums besides my desk and then where the 15 gallon is sitting at the moment. So I'd love to have more tanks going. I just don't have room for it until, you know, eventually I buy a house a few years down the line from now. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Hopefully you guys go out there and get you some of these. DIY lights, and the color reproduction on them is amazing. And yeah, if you guys haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you on the next one. Keep it planted.